They were charged to deliver a game. They listed a price. You paid it. You should get the game. Realizing that their livelihood, the way that they were able to feed their children is because people were willing to give them some money years in advance. And then to not honor that trust, to take that for granted, to then just ask for more, and to not be completely and utterly heartbroken that you're having to do that. Not enough do. It's not just Mythic Games either. Hardly any, I would argue, fully comprehend how amazing that is. What's up, Rockstars? Today I'm going to be talking about the recent rise of asking for more money to get your games, or else. Thank you to my channel sponsor, Into the AM. As a company that believes hard work and a great product is a proper way to conduct business, I am delighted to have them as part of the channel. They have some of the coolest graphic t-shirts around and an absolute best fit and feel that has continually exceeded my expectations. With new shirts arriving all the time and other products like boxers, hats, and even a monthly shirt club, I wholeheartedly recommend them to you. Check out the link in my description of this video for an exclusive 10% off everything they sell. As always, a huge shout out to my patrons and YouTube members. It is through their support that videos just like this is possible. So if you appreciate videos like the one you're getting or the ones I give you every single week, and you can give even $1 a month, there's a link in the description below. Thank you so very much. Truly, it makes all the difference. It allows me to do videos just like this, and I love making videos for you guys. So let's just dive right into things. Now, I want to actually clarify something, because I saw a few of you not realize that I've put 5 years of work into this channel to be independent, to be able to do what I do every single day for you guys. And so a lot of you were like, hey, KOA, you made a video telling us about some extra payment we need for Darkest Dungeon. When'd you get in bed with Mythic Games? How much did they pay you? Now, before I comment on how dumb of an idea it is that I would attach myself to a dying company after 5 years of doing this, let's actually just look at how much they owe me. So here is my Joan of Arc, actually. So I did get this Joan of Arc, but you can see I put my own $179 into that sucker. And of course, then there's Hell. This is stuff they haven't even delivered yet. That's my $202 they haven't. Actually, all of this is thanks to my lovely patrons. Again, a link down below. You want somebody to buy his game so that they consider themselves a consumer just like you, then you got to support the channel. That's how that works. Okay, how about Anastair? Another 130. I have not checked out on this, but you can see, actually, I put 160 in there. I don't know if I was anticipating shipping. Not enough then, if that's the case. Or if I thought of an expansion or not. I don't know. I haven't even finalized this one yet. Six Siege. Paid for that one. I gave them $69 and I'm not even getting the game yet. I need to bug them about this again. I think I've spoken to Leo twice about this, but I kind of missed the deadline. But I still really want the game. It's a fantastic game. It's really good. And even Darkest Dungeon, $425. There is a video on my channel where I hem and haw about this because I'm spending so much money, because I'm spending the money. So just to clarify, I'm right here with you guys, so much so that they want me to pay another $54 in shipping, okay? So let's cut the crap about the whole, like, oh, you must be in bed, oh, you must do this, oh, you must simp for them or that. Look, I will not agree with everything you guys think, okay? It's just, it doesn't happen, okay? So just as a blanket statement, if you're angry at a company, and you come to my channel because you want me to feed that anger, to satiate your anger, go somewhere else. Okay, I'm not here to satiate anger on this channel. I will be upset at times. I will show frustration. And I'm also only human. So I might get it right sometimes and I might not another time. But I'm not here to feed that. Okay, so realize what you're doing there and don't take your anger on Mythic Games out on me. Okay, now with that out of the way, let's talk about the issue. Now, this is going to be more than just Mythic Games, because this is actually a series I'm starting where I get to constantly tell you guys about companies wanting more money. And in fact, I've missed a few. Some I've covered, some I've not. Let's go over a few recent ones, including some I've not even looked at before. Obviously, Oathsworn. Update 65, they did a big thing here, an important update, an important one. Please read all caps. And they start with the 12-year-old's epic teaser trailer. Well, that's kind of fun. And then the important shipping update. You could watch 2.5 hours uncut view from a cargo ship in 4K with a very blue sea. It looks very pretty, minus the rusty containers, that is. But they go on to give you 2 videos where it's very sincere, very heartfelt, of an apology and explaining kind of the math behind it and what they've done, what they've tried to do, and their best efforts and their mistakes, and owning up to those mistakes that led to that, right, about what they charged and stuff like that. They did an interview with Quackalope. They actually spoke with me about it as well, but I didn't make a video of it, whereas Quack was able to actually do that. So that's great. So they had that prepared for it. They also decided, you know what, we're going to give 10% off for life to these people because we feel so bad about it. That's a huge kind of, here's something we can give that's will affect us in the future for sure, but it's not something that is going to kill them right now either. So it's a fairly safe bet to get this out the door. And they even apologize. They even say sorry in the update. Everybody, not everybody, okay? 99.9%, no. A large majority of people were very okay with this, very understanding with this. And it's not just for this one update. It's because throughout their lifetime as a company, they've done nothing but build goodwill towards people. They've earned that, right? Just like I feel I've earned a little leeway if I make an issue every now and then. If I mess up every so often, you guys know where my heart is. You guys know me and what I'm trying to do, and you guys can be a little accommodating. Not everybody. Some of you guys think I'm in bed with Mythic Games, but besides that, no. But seriously, right? Like, you earn the right to fail, essentially, as a company, as a person, as just anything, right? It's like you don't just give your trust away freely, but at the same time, if you do earn a little bit of trust, people aren't expecting perfection per se, okay? So this went really well. Now we had Vampire the Masquerade chapters. Now this is something, by the way, that I warned you guys about early on. Now I'm not taking this as like a great thing, like a haha, I win. I wish I had been wrong. I totally do. But I wasn't. So if you recall, when I covered this, one thing I did caution about, and I just said, go ahead and back it, but just go into it knowing it's going to be a bit of a bumpy ride. Because what you have here by VAT Games is a company that has exploded suddenly from a small company to great success, huge success, over 1 million Canadian dollars there. Okay, so lots and lots of dollars coming their way on an IP game. So they're dealing with an IP game. They're dealing with more miniatures than they've ever done before, with a bigger box than they've ever done before, with bigger game than they've ever done before, and a sudden success. So they get all the growing pains all at once. And so you're going to get a bumpy ride for it. It happens every single time we see this happen with a small team that gets an IP that then explodes. It's a little bit of a bumpy ride. That doesn't mean it's not going to be great. Just means that it's not going to be as smooth a ride as, say, you back something from Command not called Trudvang Legends, right? Where you get a super smooth ride, where it comes in almost like clockwork, and you get what they showed, and everything's kind of just working well, right? It's a well-oiled machine. Not the case here. The machine's still being built, right? And so a little bit of rough and stuff. And they made some mistakes. For instance, the original thing is actually on Creation Diary episode 24. Like, there's nothing in here that makes it realize that I might need to do this, right? And this is a point here. So you scroll all the way down here to freight shipping and raw material, and then all the way down here, you see a little help thing, and then they talk about this. Now, what did they do? They essentially said, hey, shipping is too much. We need help. We can't put any more into here. So they made this item cards booster. It's a little thing you can buy for $25. It's this pack of cards. You can see it's kind of like a little Magic the Gathering pack, right? Or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or whatever, Pokemon or whatever, crap you're into. I don't mean that in a bad way. That helps the game a little bit, and of course funds them quite well. But they actually said, we're actually going to open up the pledge. You can go ahead and do that, and you can buy any add-on. If you buy any add-on at all, that's helping us, right? Now, obviously, they then have to make it, and so there's kind of like, it's whatever their profit is on that. What they're saying is, if you do that, or of some voluntary contributions, then that helps, okay? And so that's kind of what they did, and then they kind of explained how that's there, and then they had an important note, and then back to, you know, like this monthly haha fun stuff. I don't know if this mentions any of that or not. I don't think so, because the subjects here, which is a great idea, by the way, for the video, don't show that. And they show how they made this bigger, and they did this, and we received this and that, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of stuff there, but obviously kind of hidden. But they did the thing where they're like, let's open up the Pledge Manager and let them be able to support it through that. More on that later. I'll wait. So then we get to like the last 3 days, right? So this is like right before the end of it, because they only did it for like a few short weeks. Now it says, where are we? 103,000 of 200,000. So they have not raised a month. They've barely raised half of what they needed, right? From 2,730 backers, right? And so you've outdone your part and raised an average of 38 CAD, which is Canadian dollars. Thank you so much. What's next? This Thursday, we'll close the Pledge Manager. Add-ons and booster cards won't be available anymore. Final numbers will be sent to our factory. And then the remaining shipping amount required, which is all of this money, will be divided and split according to your pledge tier, geographic address, and updated shipping prices. In other words, we're going to charge extra shipping to everybody else. But it's not going to be blanketed. It's going to be where, you know, the people in like China get it really well, and the person in Brazil just gets screwed over, right? It's kind of like how they're doing that there. There's no pros and cons to that at all. Either you're distributing it evenly and everybody's paying too much, like the guy in China shouldn't be paying hardly anything, instead he's paying a whole bunch, and then the guy in or Japan or anywhere close by, and then the guy in Brazil gets a better deal, or you're just selectively screwing over people based off where they live. So like either way, it's kind of bad. But that's what they're going to do. And then it says you will receive an email asking for the extra shipping once they start. And so then it kind of goes into all of this. They implement a pledge transfer. This is something Shield did as well. Essentially, they're like, hey, if you don't want to pay your money, that's fine. We'll refund you as soon as we find another buyer for you. So in other words, as soon as somebody's willing to pay your price, you can get out. It means you don't get the game. It means all that time they had your money and you get nothing in return. There's no interest back to you, right? In fact, it's probably less depending on exchange rates. Oftentimes you'll actually get less money back. So you're out that money and you get less back and no game, right? It's not a great deal, but if you can't pay for it, that's fine. Somebody else is willing to do it. So they do have that. And then it says, if not, though, this is what happens. Your pledge will be produced. Okay. It will be sent to our office in Montreal using the shipping money already collected. In other words, the money you paid us to ship it to you, we'll ship it to us. Okay. Your game will be stored here for as long as necessary and will be available for local pickup. And to get your game shipped, you have to pay us. And by the way, it's going to be super expensive because we're going to just pay piecemeal out instead of, you know, do the cheaper option through a distribution system or a company that handles this. So in other words, you're kind of screwed, right? Either way, either you pay now or you don't pay now, and you definitely don't pay later, is kind of the options there. So it really, really screws people up, right? But they're obviously trying, right? They're trying many different things with the game swap and stuff like that. And then on the final count, they raised 177,000 out of the 200,000 they needed. Both founders, Gary and Thomas, decided to take out a personal loan to cover the differences there. So everybody will not get their game. There ended up being 5,192 people that participated. They had over 8,000 backers kind of combined with everything. So it's still only a percentage of people helped, and probably only a percentage of people actually even knew. In fact, if I go back to this one, and this is important too. Let's see, where is this at? You are the only group asking for shipping costs. This has progressed as a straight up scam. So this is people, like there are some people that are just upset, right, about all of this. Kickstarter has been going on for 128 weeks, and you gave 2 weeks notice that we were increasing the price, and then 3 days notice that unless you did that. So there's more people at the very end on this one, right, if you scroll down here, that are like, I had no idea. I had no idea. I missed the past 2 weeks of emails, and now I'm so confused. Bummer, somehow I missed this completely. Can I add items, right? So that is why I do these updates, by the way, because there's a normal system where you pledge it, a few weeks later, Pledge Manager opens, you do your business. And then there's it's been years now. And if you aren't reading the update number 67 or whatever, if you aren't digging into it wasn't even obvious, right? It was labeled, just whatever this junk was, right? And if you didn't read Creation Diary episode 24, if you didn't check your email for, the 300th email you've gotten from this campaign, then you just didn't know you needed to pay more, right? And so, or that you could have gotten out with just a $25 pack of cards or something like that. So, you got to get the word out when you're doing something abnormal, like years later charging it. And as somebody said, you're not the only one doing it. So that brings us to Darkest Dungeon. Now, what I'm going to do is kind of catalog how Mythic Games got here. And I'm going to catalog my opinions on that. And then we're going to end in some closing thoughts. Okay, so first of all, I mean, without anything, let's just kind of look through this. One thing you'll notice is that the word apologizes, there's no sorry, the word apologizes right here. That's the only time it's mentioned. And it says that they are apologizing for the late delivery. That's it. There's no apology for charging more. There's no sorry we're having to do this. There's no, hey, we're sorry we got to this point or this or that. There's not really even necessarily owning up to it. It's just, hey, we apologize for the late delivery. By the way, here's all this. But the update at least says take heed, important updates, stuff like that, right? So that's great. They have a little summary here, but it's very terse, right? There's not a whole lot there. And then we're just like, hey, wave 1's ready to ship. They show you some nice pictures of the fantastic minis that they made, which I'm sure they're great, which is awesome to see in the wave 2. Then they start talking about shipping costs, subsidies, container prices, right? That we hear all the time. A lot of shipping stuff. What essentially they're saying is that, hey, we have like paid into this to ship it to you cheaper. No longer. Now you're paying the full price of shipping. This is a mistake to focus on the shipping, and I'll talk about that later. Contributing to Darkest Dungeon, okay, the shipping costs to get these games to you are 3.1 million, which is 1.4 million more than the 1.7 million paid by our backers. Blah 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 blah. Red Hook is willing to give 100,000. We are going to give 775,000, so they have 775,000 to put towards this. And then how will the contribution be administered? They keep calling it a contribution, but it's fairly forced here, right? There's no option just to buy more stuff or anything like that. They're opening the pledge manager where they auto added it. You pay that and that's it. In fact, I don't think, did I see was there a tip option? Is there a way to tip them? Not that I see. So that's also dumb. They need a way to be able to tip. So I guess you could change your quantity of something. And it looks like you can probably exit out of these two. I don't know what happens if you do that. It sounds kind of messy. Anyway, and then they charge you wave 1, wave 2. I've kind of been over all this. And then they have some FAQ. The FAQ is sort of helpful, kind of helpful. And then it shows kind of the team, which is great to show that, hey, these are real people. That's great to see. So I do like that. And then here's the FAQ here. So, all right. Obviously, not quite as good. If you compare it to Oathsworn, right? Oathsworn did a much better job. They said sorry. They gave 2 updates. They did some interviews. And then if you watch these videos, I'm not going to play it, but like you can tell Jamie is so sorry for even having to ask this. They're not happy about it. And it shows with how it did that. But you can't just come out of the blue. You got to build up the trust. So why was Oathsworn able to do this? Why was even Vampires of the Masquerade chapters able to do this and mostly get off without people calling it a scam or a hostage situation or all this other kind of stuff? It's that goodwill. So let's talk about what got Darkest Dungeon here. What got Mythic Games to this point? Where are they at fault? Now they're just apologizing for a late delivery. Let's actually talk about what they really need to be apologizing for. Too many campaigns. They actually were part of the reason why I started the hashtag MakeGamesNotCampaigns. One of the first times I ever spoke with Leo is because he saw a meme I had made on camera where I showed a car crash, where a car was slowly coming and crashing in 4 frames, and I put their games and all that because they were just spamming so many games and not delivering them. And they reduced that somewhat. They got a little bit better at delivering, but they still have a lot. I mean, I just showed. Right? They owe me Darkest Dungeon. They owe me 6 Siege. They owe me Anastyr. They owe me Hell. All of these things they have not delivered yet. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what comes next, right? They were planning on doing even more. So 4 to 5 outstanding is kind of what they were kind of operating at. So there was some big delays there. So that's also obviously an issue. And there's a few other ones that Rise of the Necromancers, stuff like that, Phoenix Line, that they still technically needed to produce, still taking up production queue, still taking up a little bit of resources, even though it's not a game they developed. So obviously that's an issue, right? Just making too many freaking games. They're just Like they hired to a spot where they just needed to make all of these, and eventually a wheel fell off, right, and a steer, and now it crashed and burned. Okay, so they were obviously running at a rate where they couldn't do this, but there was more to it than that. For instance, their games were too large. Now, that's not to say that a game can't be large. It just doesn't need to be large right up front, right? Joan of Arc is a ridiculously sized game. Now, I love big games. Don't get me wrong. I do. I very much enjoy them. That's why I've given them almost $1,000 right here already. So, and more in the past. But Joan of Arc is a ton, even before the 1.5. Does all of that need to be in the first Kickstarter? In other words, do you need to shotgun the whole thing, right? It's kind of like doing 3 acts of Storm Thunder, right? Seems like, or just do one and then do the other 2 later. Like, you don't need to, like, let's reduce the scope, reduce the risk and the size and the behemoth, cost of shipping these kind of things. And so they kind of put themselves in a corner there. Solomon Kane, again, another huge game. Do I want more? Yes, I want more than what they already have, but it didn't need to all be in one campaign. So the scope creep, the size of their games, massive, huge. And I think the driving force to that, and a lot of companies do this, right, is they want to make that big number funded Kingdom Death style. And what I mean by that is they want it to be expensive and a ton of it, right? It's very hard if you're making a card game that costs $35 to make over $1 million. That's not saying you can't, but you need a ton of backers to do that. It's a lot easier to make $1 million when people are paying $600 for an all-in, right? Like just because of the sheer amount of the cost, you can inflate that number. And I think there's, and not just Mythic Games, but I think you're so focused on that giant revenue that you're killing your profit for that. It's no different than YouTubers focused on their subscribers and not getting the views. Have you ever been to a channel that has a ton of subscribers, but their views just aren't that much? Or they're getting the views, but the engagement isn't a whole lot or whatever, right? Because you're focused on that public number that everybody can see easily, that summarizes everything. But you're not focused on the actual pieces that drive a successful channel. I don't have the most subscribers, but I do quite well with my views. Part of that is based off of, just me counting myself as one of you guys, right? And being a little bit of a bridge between, or as opposed to, coming from the other side. But part of it's just because I focus on engagement. I focus on talking to you guys and being there with you guys, as opposed to just pumping up every subscriber count I can, whether they watch my stuff or not. Otherwise, I would cover a lot more variety stuff. So I'm very niche, and that's because I'm focused on that. There are companies focused on their games, focused on their communities, and not necessarily their campaigns, if that makes sense. Make games, not campaigns. That's the difference. It's what separated Oathsworn from Darkest Dungeon. It's what separated Shadowborn Games from Mythic Games. One is focused on their community, on their game, on having people love it, on doing everything they can for that game, and one has already moved on 3 games since then. That's the difference. Your brain power can only focus so much, and it's quite telling if it's now focused on the new thing, right? You always see those companies that, like Kaban does this, for instance, but a ton do, where the moment they have another campaign, they never respond to anybody there, or the moment the campaign's over, they're done. They're done, because now that's on to the next campaign, and then on to the next campaign, and then on to the next campaign. Oh, you're like 3 campaigns ago, and who are you again? Oh yeah, that's right, we got your money 3 years ago. Yeah, we'll get it eventually, sure, whatever. You're yesterday's news, right? Okay, so that's one thing. It's just a focus. Too many games. Also, too many delays. Now, this pertains to the two above, too big and too many, right? And that just causes delays, because there comes a point where you can't just throw people at a problem, where you can't just throw money at a problem. Sometimes a problem just has to be worked through. It takes time. And taking time means that every time you add more to it, you're adding more time and more time, right? There was a big point I remember talking with Leo where he talked about development debt. In my line of work, it's called technical debt. But essentially, you get this point where you're spinning so many plates, and eventually you get to put the plates down, and you can just spin one plate. That's where you want to get to, where you can really focus 100% of your time on something, right? But every time you release something new, oh, that's there. And development is just for the developers. That doesn't mean that logistically you can just focus on one thing or another. When you divide your attention, you become less efficient. It's just how it works. You're busy dealing with that, so you can't deal with this or do with that. It's a finite thing to focus on, and you just can't do it. And so the more you do, the slower everything goes, and the less the turnout is, and all that other kind of stuff. So there's a few other things like them, like refusing to work with any other manufacturer. So the manufacturers, they're kind of beholden to them too in their pipeline, which isn't necessarily the biggest, but it's not just the manufacturer. It's Mythic Games not getting their crap done too. Okay, so that led to these big delays. If Darkest Dungeon had delivered when it was supposed to deliver, it would have been fine. And not only would it have not been fine, but they would have done better in other campaigns because more people would be happy playing their games instead of waiting for their games. And not only would it have not been an issue, because they would have actually been able to focus instead of not focus. And the prices wouldn't have changed so much. And they would have done better. And all of this combined, they'd still be going around right now plenty strong, because I think they make great games. They just gotta freaking deliver it to people. And be able to focus. One of the problems, the reason Joan of Arc needed 1.5, the reason it's a joke that, oh, Mythic Games just always needs a 1.5, it just needs a fix on it. Reichbusters was great, it just needs a fix, right? All these games are broken until they're fixed. It's because you can't focus. You're too busy doing too much. They've done this to themselves. Now, before I finish that, before I move on to something else, every single developer that's asking for more money, it's their fault. It's not our fault. It's never our fault. If they need to ask for more, at the end of the day, the blame points to them. Now, that doesn't mean the why isn't important. That doesn't mean we can't excuse some and not others. For instance, Shadowborn Games, it is their fault you had to pay more. Their fault. They were charged to deliver a game. They listed a price. You paid it. You should get the game. Now, I and many others excuse that because of how great they have been, their sincerity, their issues, and all, and how they've owned up to them and stuff like that. For instance, they did not obviously charge enough to withstand that. They chose to make this gigantic game. They chose to make it on razor thin margins. That was their decision, not yours, but you had to pay more for it. Now, they ended up too. Obviously, they didn't get those profits and all that stuff too. But I'm just saying, from strictly a consumer standpoint, it's the company's fault. It's always the company's fault. We have no sway over what they make, how much they make, how efficient they are. None of that. It is all them. It is always their fault, and it's our decision to excuse it or not. So I don't want to come in here saying, oh, it's Mythic Games' fault, but it's not their. No, it's their fault too. Every time you ask for more money, it's not your fault. It's their fault. You need to decide if that's okay or not. So with that out of the way, too large of a company. Look, they had both Sam and Helen. Now, that's like two community people. Do you need two community people? No. Would it be nice to have two community people? Sure, of course. But and I'm not blaming them. Of course not. But what I'm saying is it's a sign of a company that's become very okay with being larger, with having more overhead, which is okay if you're on top of things. But if you're one failure away, like with Anastyr, to completely destroying your image and having to beg for money and, going under and all this other kind of crap, maybe you shouldn't hire so many people. Now, they had to let some people go, which is unfortunate, but I mean, it sucks that people are affected by this, especially because it's probably the people that didn't make the decisions anyway. It always is, of course, right? But, I mean, it's very obvious. Mythic Games is very kind of, we got this, we're good. Launch Anastyr to do great. And then, it's like they can't even, I can't imagine running a business not asking the worst question, right? What if this fails? What then? Now, with the failure, I want to point out something. Do you guys remember Dia Games? They made Euthia. They delivered it. Everybody that got it seemed to like it. It was big miniatures. It was pretty art. It was well made. And then they're like, okay, we're launching a new Euthia, and we're going to have a pet class, and everybody's all excited, and everything looks super professional. And then they cancel at $500,000 because it wasn't enough, because they needed more, because they were actually on fire, and we just didn't know. How many companies do you think right now? I want you to think. You can pause the video even and think about this. Or in fact, let me know in the comments below, because I'm going to tell you mine. How many companies do you think are one failure away from this? One failure away from Dia Games, one failure away from Mythic Games, one failure away from going under as a company? No, seriously, let me know. How many? Do you have examples? What do you think? Because I bet it's a lot. We don't know about it until it happens, right? We didn't know Mythic Games was on fire until suddenly it's just burst into flames because Anastair didn't make enough. We didn't know Dia Games was struggling until they shuttered. How many companies do you think are dealing with that right now? Now, part of that's because it's freaking expensive right now, right? And we're going to talk about shipping versus manufacturing costs versus all sorts of other stuff in a bit. But these companies are putting you at more risk than you think. When I signed up for Anastair, when I put 160 of my own dollars into Anastair, I didn't do it for that kind of risk. There was nothing on their campaign page that told me, hey, you're putting all of this money, hundreds of your dollars, into some high-risk situation. We might falter as a company. That wasn't on there anywhere. Now, of course it wasn't, right? You can't sell products saying that. But do you get what I'm saying? Like, we get blindsided by this. It's not like we're like, oh, no, that makes sense. I knew you were struggling when I gave you all that money, right? That's not, we never say that. None of us say that. Again, it's not our fault. It's theirs, okay? So that is just crap that they were like that much on fire and we didn't know, right? We yell at like Peterson Games and companies like that just like do the whole rob Peter to pay Paul, that almost like I can't even think of it. It's not a pyramid scheme. What is it? A Ponzi scheme, right? Where you're just one step ahead and then eventually it all falls down. But that's what we're seeing these companies do. They're just pretending everything's okay, lying through their teeth, saying, oh yeah, back us, yeah, do this, hoping that we'll take it and hoping it'll be enough to pay them, because otherwise they can't. They don't have enough. They're in the red. So in that sense, good on all these companies to at least tell us now, finally, for some of them. We're like Oathsworn, right? Maybe they would have just, done another one and just hoped it was good enough. How many times do you do that until it's not good enough? And now suddenly, because your future one failed, suddenly all the others fall apart. Right? It's bad. It's bad, and they're not telling us this. They're not... There's nowhere on the page that tells you, hey, you're entering a high-risk situation here. Especially from a company like Mythic Games that's delivered all these other games. So yeah, that sucks. That really, really sucks. I don't know how many companies are in that situation, but it's going to be a lot. I want to circle back to delays before I talk about my last thing here, because I think this too, and in fact, I would love, again, to hear what you have to say. I guarantee you have something. I'm going to say something, and a game's going to pop into your head. Tell me what that is. I would be curious to know, because the moment I say it, I instantly think of at least 2 games. I'll give you 2 games. I'll give you those 2, but I'm sure you have more. I believe that these companies are just busy spinning plates. They're just spinning it and then hoping they can spin the next one and the next one and the next one until finally they can let one go. How many companies, or what company do you think is spinning that plate? With giving BS updates for a year's time that doesn't seem to be making any progress. I don't think anybody's working on this. They're just waiting until they can ship it, because they can't afford to ship it. So they don't want to make it, because once they make it, then they have to pay for storage. So it just sits there, not made, not finished, not shipped, and it's all BS. I'll give you 2 right now. Storm Thunder, Dawn of Madness. Those are my 2. What are yours? Let me know. I'm serious about this, because I think I'm right. Have you seen these games? Like a Subterra 2. You remember when I covered that? And for 7 months, they just had like a paragraph of like nothing was going on. Do you really think it's because they were struggling to develop it and, oh, it was this, no, it was that? Or do you think they just didn't want to freaking make it, because the moment they make it, then they have to actually deliver it, and they couldn't afford it? So they're hoping and praying to God that their pledge manager will pay for it, or some, miracle from heaven will send a money tree, or their next campaign will pay for it, or this or that, or maybe they can sell assets here, or make minis here, or do this to finally get it there. Why do you think Chronicle X took so long? Right? There's another one for you. It's because they just paid for it as they could and then finally shipped it out the door. But it had to get paid from the other stuff. Obviously, to get Darkest Dungeon out of there, they were wanting to subsidize it. And that included Anastair doing well. It meant Anastair had to do well for Darkest Dungeon to deliver. That's waiting on this for that. So while it's not, taking Peter to pay Paul, it's taking all of Peter's profits and hoping Peter never has an issue to pay Paul, which isn't right either. Okay? So this is obviously an issue. Obviously an issue. And I think a lot of companies, and I don't want to like fear monger here, but I do believe this. I believe that there are a lot of games that are one failure, or companies that are one failure away from failing, and companies that are purposely BSing you in updates for a year's time just because they can't afford to actually make it and ship it because they've already spent your money. And the longer it goes, the worse it gets. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. Okay. Last point here. I'm getting a little sweaty here, guys. It gets hot here. I got all the lights on and everything. I'm getting all flushed. I'm getting all worked up. My goodness. Okay. VAT. You knew I was going to mention this. And then I'll talk about how you're not paying for shipping. It's kind of related. Okay, so with these delays, let me tell you a story about how multiple developers have told me this. And no, I'm not going to give you their names, but multiple developers have mentioned this. And honestly, like I'm glad they have. And it makes sense, and I'm not even necessarily upset about this because I can understand it's a crappy situation. All these games that are delayed now have to pay VAT that they were going to cheat. It's just pretty much how it was. It's how the whole industry worked. Well, let me explain that. I know I explained a little bit in my shipping video, but you guys probably didn't even watch that far. Most people don't. I see the stats. The line goes down like that. People don't watch the whole video. Their priority, they won't even hear this part. But if you're here, thank you. Thank you for watching this. You will be a more informed consumer because of this, I promise. Okay, so what happened? For years, what you would do is you make this game, and then you ship it to Europe. And then they ask, well, how much was this? And you tell them the manufacturing cost of it. And then it's either so low that you don't have to really pay at all, or you pay a little bit. It's no big deal. You can pay for that. And then you don't charge VAT to Europe, to any European nation that takes it, right? Left 20% less. Now, let's say you want to run an honest company, right? Let's say I don't want to do that. I want to actually charge them VAT. VAT is supposed to be there. I don't want to put it in the main price, so I'm just going to charge them specifically afterwards. Well, first of all, do you remember what happened when that happened? European backers were frothing at the mouth. They were so upset about this. Now, part of it was because it was charged so much later. Part of it was because they didn't actually see that ahead of time. But even then, when they did see it and they said, hey, we'll charge VAT, you're saying then I'm not backing you. And I can't blame you guys. But also then can't blame them for not willing to do that and be the only ones. Because here's the thing. Let's say Mythic Games decided to charge VAT from the get-go. They were just going to be honest about it. Hey, guys, you got this value-added tax thing. It's going to cost more. I don't want to put it in the MSRP because then everybody pays for it, so I'm going to charge just you. Okay, that's option one. Nobody would back their game then. Why would you do that? It's a worse deal. It costs me 20% more than... that guy doesn't have to do it. That guy's not doing it. If nobody else is doing it, right? It's like when everybody speeds. If everybody's going 70 and then 55, you say go 55, you're the danger at that point, right? You either go 70 with them or you pull over off the side of the road and give up driving. All right, because I mean that's how this works. As a company, you can't sell your product if you're 20% more arbitrarily than everybody else. Okay, so option two, put it in the MSR or put it in the price, in the pledge price, right? Then I'm not charging VAT. Don't worry about that. It's taken care of somehow. Then your product's more expensive, then everybody sees you have a worse deal. If everybody is cheating and you're not, you just look like the slowest. You just look like the worst deal. And what are you gonna do? Call out your peers, tell everybody else about it or something like that? Geez, that gets me in trouble with these developers even when I mention this crap because they don't like me talking about it. It's why every time I mention it, they talk about container prices again because that's what they love to talk about. Always container prices, container prices, container prices. I made a video talking about VAT. Nobody challenges me on the VAT. They just challenge me on the container price because they don't want to talk about the VAT because they know what they did. It's not just one guy telling me. It's not just two. I've heard this from multiple developers. This is how you did it. This is how it operated. And again, I get it. Guess what? When everybody's going 7 in the freeway, don't tell any cops this, but I do too. I go the same speed limit as everybody else, or the same speed as everybody else. I don't want to have people swerve around and get angry and do some road rage and shoot at me or some crazy crap like that. Just go a little bit faster. And I get there faster anyway, so bonus. Or them. Hey, no, I make a little bit more money anyway. Just cheat the system. But if you didn't deliver in time, if you didn't charge VAT, and now, Europe found out about the issue, closed the loophole. Now they're charged based off your accounting and not necessarily that. And it's charged when you deliver. And then you have to deliver Now you have to pay VAT, and you didn't charge it. 20% extra to every European. You know how big that is for a game like Darkest Dungeon or stuff like that? Now, it's not necessarily Darkest Dungeon, right? But it would have been Solomon Kane. It would have been Joan of Arc. It would have been several other things that passed that line. And it's not just Mythic Games, so I'm not just blaming them. It's everybody, right? This is what happened. This is how the industry operated. Save some money. Why not? Yeah, just put whatever number you want on there. Because to make these games, it's like $20, $50 maybe tops. To make like a huge game, manufacturing cost wasn't that much, especially back then. It was actually pretty cheap. Actually not too bad. Now, the cost comes from everything else. But anyway, so that was a big issue. But Mythic Games can't say, hey, we've had to pay all this VAT that we didn't charge because we were hoping we could cheat it out. Like, no company can say that. Of course they can't. I don't want them to. I don't want anybody to get arrested or any crazy crap like that. So look, they're not going to say that. So instead, what they're going to say is, hey, look, right here. Container prices. Again, container prices. And they're not even really mentioning stuff like manufacturing costs, which have also gone up, and last mile and all that. It's always just container costs. And just like, I hate that that's all these companies focus on. And just like was said before, right, with Stone Manor Games, they said the same thing. It's a flashy number. It's a big number you get to throw around, right? It looks impressive. But that's all. It's not actually that much per. Now, granted, it's more. I'm not fighting that. I don't want to argue about that. But it's not everybody gets charged $70 more either. It's because at the end of the day, you are not paying the shipping cost for Darkest Dungeon. You are not paying for shipping. They are not charging me $110, which is, I think, about what they're charging me in total now to ship Darkest Dungeon. This is pay Mythic Games so they can still operate as a company. Money. That's the fee. But they're wrapping it in shipping. Now, that's not necessarily a purposeful thing either, because they always map it to shipping, right? The reason Vampire, the Chapters game, the reason it was saying shipping, the reason Oathsworn was only short on shipping, it's not that it was only short on shipping. It's not that Vampire the Masquerade was only short on shipping. It's not that Darkest Dungeon was only short on shipping. Like they said, manufacturing costs come up, but they're not calling it manufacturing cost thing. Shipping, freight, whatever, is the very last thing a company has to pay for. So if there were issues here, it culminates to not having enough here. Does that make sense? It's not even necessarily based on what they charged you. It just means that they spent all of your money here, and now they don't have any money here. That's what they're saying. So really, you're not paying shipping costs. They're marketing it as shipping costs. They're calling it shipping. But it's just the money ran out before then. And the money ran out before then for a host of other things that don't have to do with shipping. Okay? They don't need $70 from everybody for shipping. They need $70 from everybody because they messed up in a whole lot of different places. Now, it's not all bad here. Let me explain. They could, if they wanted to, take all the money that they raised from Anastyr, plop it on there, deliver Darkest Dungeon. They could do that right now. They're choosing not to. Okay? Because then essentially you're saying Anastyr backers are screwed, Darkest Dungeon, get that. Okay? That's actually good. I'm glad they're not doing that. I'm glad they're not. What I'm not glad about is the fact that Anastyr even funded. They should have canceled that. Why would you sign up for this huge delivery? This is what got you into the crap hole to begin with. They should have canceled just like Uthia, just like DA Games did. They should have canceled and said, you know what, we needed way more than this. We need to figure out what's going on here. Why would you sign up for that? If nothing else, why would you keep throwing expansions on it and expansions on it? Why, so the number gets above 1 million? That's not doing any good, obviously, if you're still short this much, if you need this much money. Because it's not profit. That's revenue. Profit is what you need. And that's not how you're getting it. I don't know why I would have just canceled it, at most only delivered the base game. Just start delivering the base game. And now they've learned this lesson, right? Smaller games. Let's just focus on smaller stuff. Fantastic. Unfortunately, they figured this out afterwards. Even though People have constantly been saying the stuff like make games, not campaigns, and you're making too many, and they've been counting how many, and they've been interacting with the community who comments about how many they're making and all this kind of stuff. They've only now figured out, hey, maybe we're making too many. But, I mean, it is what it is. Okay? But commendable that they're not saying, let's screw some of our customers to make some of our other customers happy. So that's good. I'm actually okay with that. Now, would it have been nice for them to do a pledge swap? Yes. Would it have been nice for them to offer more things in Pledge Manager? Oh, speaking of that, once again, how many companies do you think... Okay, so Vampire the Masquerade. They leave their Pledge Manager open and say, hey, here's a new thing added to the Pledge Manager. They chose to say this was to help with shipping, but they didn't have to tell you that. They could have just said, hey, we made this new thing. How many companies have you dealt with that add stuff in the Pledge Manager and make that Pledge Manager open a lot longer or reopen it or all this other kind of stuff to allow you to add more stuff, but never mention shipping? Do you think they did that because they just felt like it for funsies, or do you think they actually needed money and you just didn't know about it? It's a worthy question to ask. In other words, are we just hearing about the people who really botch it? Or are we actually in a situation where a lot of companies are struggling to deal with this for a multitude of bad business practices, and we're secretly, unknowingly funding it? I'd argue it's quite a bit. I know of several companies that do this. They just add the stuff in the Pledge Manager and they leave it open, and they're just hoping that as long as that happens, they will eventually be able to pay for the thing that they promised a long, long time ago. That's why we're seeing all these delays. That's why we're seeing that stuff added. So, but they didn't do that. They didn't offer new dice. They didn't offer 10% off. They didn't offer even much of an apology until the live stream later on. So, that's obviously bad. That's no good. But at the end of the day, I want my freaking game. Darkest Dungeon looks fantastic, guys. It looks so fun. It looks so good. I guarantee they made it so pretty. Mythic Games does such a great job at making the games when they finally decide to do it. So I want to pay it because I want my game. And I want them, and I also want Six Siege, and I want Anastyr, and I want Hell. I want all these games I paid for them. I see a lot of comments saying stuff like, oh, they don't deserve, I hope they go under, and stuff like that. Well, okay, maybe, but deliver your games and then go under. Like if you're gonna die right after you deliver Hell. Like I'm assuming that's gonna be the last one. It's never coming out, it seems. But you know what I'm saying? Like, what this industry doesn't need is tens of thousands of people not getting their game that they paid for. Millions of dollars swindled out of backers. Do you know what that would do to this industry? Like, it's bad enough all these other companies are killing the trust, but that's what it would do. It would kill trust. And that won't just affect Mythic Games. That'll affect Shadowborn Games. That'll affect Awaken Realms or CTG or all these other companies. Name your favorite company and it will suffer because of that. How many people have you already seen saying, I'm done with Kickstarter. I'm not dealing with this anymore. And I can't blame them. 2 years later, and you're randomly charged a whole bunch more money. If they're struggling, guess what? Prices are high for us consumers too. You know how much it cost me to fill my gas tank up? Way more, double what I used to pay back in the day. I mean, I have to budget for that stuff now. I don't just have money laying around. Thankfully, at least for me, I have some wonderful, wonderful patrons that help support this channel so that I can cover crap like this. But not everybody's that lucky. Like, it sucks. It sucks to be struggling and see other people struggling and say, now you got to pay me more. I know it's been years. I know I've goofed up, but you got to pay me more. Except not even mentioning all the goof ups. Like, it sucks. But it's killing the industry is what it's doing. And again, everybody will suffer for this if this goes down. Now, I'm not saying they deserve to keep going. I'm not saying they deserve all the money in the world or that they should be rewarded or any crap like that. What I'm saying is I want people to get what they paid for. Regardless of any company or any situation, I want them to get their stuff. And I think you should too. I don't know why you would want consumers not to get their stuff. So I'll do what I normally do, right? I tell my patrons this all the time on Discord. I say that I'm the kind of consumer that complains loudly on his way to the checkout stand. In other words, I'm going to be buying your game, but I'm going to yell about it the whole time there about how this should be different and this should be different. But at the end of the day, I still buy it. Look behind me, guys. I got tons of games. I love this crap. I love board games. I love buying them and playing them and storing them, apparently. And I do a lot of that. So, it just, I want my games. and they look great. It just sucks that it came to this. It sucks that they had to ask. It sucks that they didn't offer anything else. It sucks that there's no way out. There's no game swap. There's no, dice add-on or sleeves add-on or something or other that they could do. There's no, it's just, here's some more money. We apologize for the delay. So, yeah, as you can see, a little conflicted because I want the games and I think they're great. But the company's screwed the pooch one too many times here. They've not built up the community support. They've not handled this post well or anything like that. And this was like their crowning achievement too. How many people? I mean, it was a ton. It was like how many? 28,000 people bought this. That's a lot of people. It's a lot of people's money that they've had for years. There's not enough companies out there on Kickstarter making these expensive board games that truly comprehend how amazing it is that somebody thought that something they created looked so good that they were willing to give away hundreds of their dollars for years for nothing in return until later. The amount of trust, the amount of giving that takes. Every single day, I realize how incredible it is that somebody would pause some stupid internet video, scroll down to find a link to my Patreon, click it. Not only just visiting the Patreon site blows me away, but then deciding I'm going to give some hard-earned money to this guy because I believe in X or Y or whatever. Like, it blows me away that people are willing to do that. And I feel like there's not I have goosebumps right now. I feel like there's not enough developers that are making these games. I think I get it that a developer loves their creation, loves what they're doing, right, and what they're making, but realizes the position they're in, realizing that their livelihood, the way that they're able to feed their children, is because people were willing to give them some money years in advance, and then to not honor that trust, to take that for granted, to then just ask for more. And to not be completely and utterly heartbroken that you're having to do that. Not enough do. It's not just Mythic Games either. Hardly any, I would argue, fully comprehend how amazing that is. That we're giving hundreds of dollars. Hundreds. For years. You could invest that. You could take your kids out to freaking ice cream, if nothing else. You could spend that on your wife. You could spend that on your dog. You could give that to charity. You chose to give that to a person that wanted to make a board game, knowing that it would be years down the line. But you wanted to help do that. And I feel like that's not understood. And it's not just Leo that doesn't understand that. It's tons. It's tons of companies that don't realize what we give, what we make possible. Then we'll end it on that. It's a crappy situation. Look, I get it. And at the end of the day, I think they're, in a roundabout way, I think they're trying to do the right thing. They're just not very good at it. I like that they're making company changes. I like the fact that they canceled all their stuff. They're not going to do this anymore. Say no more big box games right now. We're just going to focus on other stuff. They're not the first company to have to do that, right? Monolith did that famously after Beyond the Monolith when that failed. Same thing. One thing failed. Boom, that company's now in like disaster. They had to let go of a whole bunch of people, refocus on things. But they did. They refocused on what they knew people liked and a safer thing for them with higher profits and a smaller team. And they've been doing good since. And I hope and pray that Mythic Games still gets to do it because I think they make great games. But something's got to change. And it's a lot of attitude more than just business practices. And I think that'll get them a long way. And they could have handled this better too, I think. So anyway, I'm sorry you gotta pay, guys. I'm sorry I have to pay too. I still haven't paid mine. But I will, because I want the game. I put hundreds and hundreds of dollars into this, and it wasn't because I don't want a game. So, it is what it is. It just sucks. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you guys. It's a crap... I could say this forever. It's a crappy situation. It is. Guys, that's all I had. There's my thoughts. You guys wanted to hear it. There it is. That's my thoughts on not only Mythic Games and Darkest Dungeon, but this entire thing that we're not seeing the last of it yet. I've already talked to other companies about things that they can do to kind of help with this when it comes to like pledge swaps and offering things and stuff like that. Like there are more companies out there that are struggling, more companies out there that are watching what happened to Mythic Games and being like, crap, we were just about to post that. Okay, let's wait, or let's look at something else. Let's try to let's BS some updates for another 4 months. Maybe they just won't notice that we're not working on this and can't deliver it anymore. There's a ton of them out there, guys. So this isn't the last time we're going to have this conversation either, which is super freaking crappy. I hope to God somehow something happens and companies can be smarter with their money, our money really, and make their games better, and also prices go down. Until then, we get to either complain that we're being charged more shipping now, or more shipping up front by Command and stuff like that, where we yell at them for charging a whole bunch. So anyway, that's it. That's all. Hi guys, have a great rest of your day. Seriously, I'm sorry this is a downer. I don't, you guys, I don't know if you've noticed, I've tried to be more positive in more videos, because at the end of the day, forget all this crap. Look behind there. Those are family moments right there. Every single one of those boxes has given me a moment with my children, with my friends, with my family, and I'm so grateful for that. We are in a fantastic industry. You should feel great about that, even if there's a few issues with it. That's okay. What family doesn't have some issues, right? Have a great day, guys. Take care. Bye. So first of all, I'm going to hit the camera. First of all, let me fix you.